The White House was the setting for a recent diplomatic row between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and former U.S. President Donald Trump. The meeting, intended to discuss a natural resources deal, devolved into a public display of animosity. Trump, along with Vice President J.D. Vance, openly criticized Zelensky's handling of the ongoing conflict with Russia. Trump accused Zelensky of gambling with World War III, suggesting that the Ukrainian president's actions were escalating the conflict. The former U.S. president's remarks underscored the growing tension between the two leaders. The meeting ended abruptly, with Zelensky cutting his U.S. visit short. This very public disagreement has raised concerns about the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations. It comes at a critical juncture, as the war in Ukraine enters its fourth year, and the need for international support remains paramount. The world is now watching closely to see how this diplomatic spat will impact the ongoing conflict. Despite the public clash, Zelensky has gone to great lengths to emphasize the importance of U.S. support for Ukraine. He acknowledged the crucial role the U.S. has played in aiding Ukraine's defense efforts over the past 3 years. The Ukrainian president reiterated that the U.S. and Ukraine are strategic partners, bound by shared interests and values. Zelensky, in an address following the White House meeting, stressed the need for honesty and open communication between the two nations. He acknowledged the disagreements but maintained that dialogue and mutual understanding were essential for resolving differences. He called for a de-escalation of tensions, emphasizing the need to focus on the bigger picture, supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. His words highlight the delicate balancing act he faces. On one hand, he needs to stand firm against what he perceives as unfair criticism. On the other hand, he cannot afford to alienate the U.S., a vital ally in this ongoing conflict. At the heart of the disagreement lies a proposed natural resources deal. Zelensky has signaled his willingness to sign the agreement, which would grant U.S. companies access to Ukrainian mineral resources. However, he has linked the deal to a key demand: concrete security guarantees from the United States. Zelensky argues that a ceasefire agreement without these guarantees would be meaningless. He believes that Russia, emboldened by any perceived weakness, would simply use a ceasefire to regroup and rearm, posing an even greater threat to Ukraine in the future. Therefore, he insists that any economic concessions must be met with ironclad commitments to Ukraine's security. This linkage between economic cooperation and security assurances has become a major sticking point in negotiations. It reflects the Ukrainian government's deep mistrust of Russia, and their determination to secure tangible support from their allies. The current tensions come against the backdrop of a 3-year war that has devastated Ukraine, leaving cities in ruins and communities shattered. Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022 shattered the peace in Eastern Europe and sparked a humanitarian crisis of unprecedented scale. Millions have been displaced, and countless lives lost, creating a dire need for international intervention and support. Throughout this ordeal, the U.S. has been a steadfast supporter of Ukraine, standing by its side in times of dire need. The U.S. has provided billions of dollars in military aid, including advanced weapon systems, crucial intelligence sharing, and comprehensive training for Ukrainian forces, ensuring they are well prepared to defend their homeland. Humanitarian aid has also flowed into the war-torn country, providing essential supplies like food, medical care, and shelter to those affected by the conflict. The U.S. has also imposed severe economic sanctions on Russia, aiming to cripple its war machine and force it to the negotiating table, thereby weakening its ability to sustain the conflict. This multifaceted support has been crucial in enabling Ukraine to resist the Russian offensive and reclaim lost territories. However, as the war drags on, the question of long-term commitment arises, testing the resolve of Ukraine's allies. Zelensky's plea for security guarantees reflects the need for enduring support, a pledge that goes beyond immediate military aid, ensuring a stable and secure future for Ukraine. Section 5. Seeking Solidarity, Zelensky's European Mission. Following the contentious meeting in Washington, Zelensky embarked on a whirlwind tour of European capitals. His first stop was London, where he met with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The meeting aimed to rally further support for Ukraine and present a united front against Russian aggression. Zelensky's European tour is seen as an attempt to shore up support from key allies, especially in light of the recent tensions with the US. He seeks to garner not just words of solidarity, but concrete commitments, increased military aid, tougher sanctions on Russia, and a clear path towards Ukraine's eventual membership in NATO. His European tour highlights the complex geopolitical landscape he must navigate. While the US remains a crucial ally, Zelensky recognizes the need to diversify Ukraine's partnerships and secure support from a broader coalition of nations. Section 6. A transatlantic divide. Differing views on guarantees. The heart of the current US-Ukraine friction lies in the differing interpretations of security guarantees. This issue has become a focal point in their diplomatic relations, influencing both policy decisions and public perceptions. Zelensky envisions a binding commitment, akin to NATO's Article 5, where an attack on one member is considered an attack on all. This vision is rooted in Ukraine's need for a robust deterrent against future threats. This would mean that any future Russian aggression would automatically trigger a military response from the US and its allies. Such a guarantee would significantly bolster Ukraine's security posture. The US, however, seems reluctant to provide such an ironclad guarantee. American officials are wary of the potential consequences of such a commitment. They argue that it could drag NATO into a direct conflict with Russia, potentially escalating the situation into a wider European war. The risks of such an escalation are deemed too high. Instead, the US focuses on providing continued military aid and diplomatic support, while stopping short of making any commitments that could lead to direct military intervention. This approach aims to balance support with caution. This difference in interpretation reveals a fundamental tension within the transatlantic alliance. It highlights the varying levels of risk each party is willing to accept. While both sides agree on the need to support Ukraine, their risk tolerance and long-term objectives appear to be diverging. This divergence could shape the future of their alliance and their collective response to global threats. Section 7. The weight of words, Trump's history of criticism. Adding another layer of complexity to the situation is Trump's history of criticizing Ukraine and NATO. Throughout his presidency, Trump repeatedly questioned the value of the transatlantic alliance and often sided with Russia's Vladimir Putin on key issues. He even faced impeachment for withholding military aid to Ukraine in 2019. Trump's return to the political scene and his continued criticism of Zelensky raise concerns about the consistency and reliability of US support for Ukraine. His remarks, often seen as pro-Russia and dismissive of Ukraine's plight, fuel uncertainty and undermine the message of unity that the Biden administration is trying to project. This historical baggage casts a long shadow over the current diplomatic row. It reinforces Zelensky's concerns about the durability of US support and underscores the need for concrete, legally binding security guarantees. Section 8. The road ahead, navigating a complex relationship. The recent diplomatic spat exposes the fragility of the US-Ukraine relationship, highlighting the underlying tensions that have been simmering for years. While both sides declare their commitment to partnership, their actions and pronouncements tell a more nuanced story, one filled with mutual suspicions and strategic calculations. The road ahead is fraught with challenges, requiring careful navigation and a commitment to open dialogue, trust building, and consistent diplomatic engagement. For Zelensky, the priority remains securing concrete security guarantees, which are essential for Ukraine's sovereignty and stability. He needs to convince the US and its allies that this is not just about Ukraine's survival, but about upholding the rules-based international order, which is crucial for global peace. He needs to make the case that appeasing Russia will only embolden it further, potentially leading to a wider conflict in the future, one that could destabilize the entire region. For the US, the challenge lies in balancing its support for Ukraine with its broader strategic interests, ensuring that its actions do not inadvertently escalate the situation. While providing military aid and diplomatic backing, the US must also consider the risks of escalation and the potential for a direct confrontation with Russia, which could have global repercussions. Finding this delicate balance will be crucial in determining the trajectory of the conflict and the future of Eastern Europe, impacting not just the region, but the entire international community. Section 9. Global implications, Ukraine at a crossroads. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine is not just a regional issue, it has global implications. It represents a battle between democracy and authoritarianism, a test of the international community's resolve to uphold the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. The outcome of this conflict will have far-reaching consequences. A Russian victory would embolden other authoritarian regimes, sending a chilling message that aggression and the use of force are acceptable tools of foreign policy. On the other hand, a Ukrainian victory achieved with the unwavering support of its allies would reaffirm the strength of the rules-based international order and serve as a deterrent against future aggression. The world is watching closely as this drama unfolds. The stakes are high, and the choices made by global leaders in the coming days and weeks will shape the future of not just Ukraine but potentially the entire world.